What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video covering recent sales for the vintage collection. And I've got everything from TVC 1.0, some foil Ultimate Galactic Hunt items. We've got a couple of grails that sold for interesting prices, a few graded items, and I've got some of the more recent releases, including another Ghost sales data point for a pre-order that was actually at auction, and it's pretty amazing the difference in price between one that was a buy it now last week versus this one that was at auction. So as always, thanks to my Patreon supporters, and thank you to Tight Cookie Pants. Brian, I appreciate you becoming a Patreon supporter. So I put that graphic in a different video. I don't know when that one's going to air, but I did want to thank him personally because I forgot to thank him in that particular video. I put the graphic up, but I forgot to thank him. So thank you so much, Brian, for becoming a Patreon. All right, we're going to start off with some Ultimate Galactic Hunt foil card backs. The first one is VC16 Obi-Wan Kenobi. This card looked to be pretty good shape overall. A couple of light scratches on the card. That one sold in an auction for $102.50 plus $10 shipping. That's kind of right in line with market. Probably about 85 condition. Again, there's a few scratches. Those foil edges, the foil racetrack, definitely shows every little scuff, so it's hard to get one exactly perfect given that these are, what, now 13 years old or more. Next up was a General Grievous. This one sold for big money. I was surprised by this price, $200, $199.50 plus $8.15 shipping. So this was a buy it now situation. My gut tells me that if you'd wait for an auction on this one, you'd probably pay a little bit less, probably closer to $150 to $175. For General Grievous on the foil card. Next up, Clone Commander Cody. Another one that was kind of not perfect. It had some light scuffs on the right-hand side. It looks like maybe even a price sticker was removed in the upper right-hand corner of the card back. That one still sold in a buy it now for $135 plus $8 shipping. Here is the retail release, the non-foil card back with the free Boba Fett rocket-firing mail-away figure. This one, or the mail-away offer, this one was punched, as they often are. VC19, pretty clean card overall, just light edge wear. That one sold for $125 plus $12 shipping. I thought that was a particularly good deal. Just very, very light edge wear on that one. Here's an interesting one. I did not see this until after the fact. Now, it did have quite a bit of creasing around the hang tab there, but this is the very tough to find Canadian VC20 Yoda with the alternate card image and the multi-language name pill. So this is a good example of one that was at auction that, you know, if you're willing to live with the defects and you want to complete your collection 100% and you've been waiting for a cheap one to show up, well, here it was. I didn't see it, but it closed on September 19th up in Canada for 451 Canadian dollars, which is 335 US dollars on 25 bids. So that's about as cheap as I've ever seen a VC20 Candian Yoda. Again, it wasn't perfect. It had some pretty major creases to it, but wow, that's, again, one of the cheapest ones I've ever seen pop up for sale. And, you know, I don't know if it's just a sign of what you guys have been talking about in the comments for my last vintage collection market update. So much stuff has hit people's credit cards on pre-orders. You had the Boba Fett throne room, you had the N1 Starfighter, you had all kinds of different pre-orders that have come up here as well, in addition to just standard release figures that have been coming out. Everyone's wallet is empty, bone dry, and so a lot of these things are falling underneath the radar for people because they're not checking on eBay right now. But this is a good example of that. 451 Canadian, 335 for the Holy Grail VC20 Candian Yoda. Wow, that's an incredible low sales price. Next up was VC34 Django Fett. This was a punched example standard US card, but this was over in the UK, and it sold for 165 pounds, which is 202 US dollars. That price is really high relative to where they're selling for over here on in the States. This one, you know, a punched example in this kind of condition would probably set you back $125 to $135, but at least over in the UK, maybe it was someone who was just trying to be a completionist and get the US card over there. But this one was not perfect, had light edge wear, as you can see on the bottom of the card. And again, it was punched for the US Django Fett. So 202 in terms of US dollars. Part of it might just be the exchange rate. I mean, obviously over here, our US dollar is not what the Great British Pound is. We're paying about $1.25 per pound right now. So But that was a surprise on the upper end of the scale. Next up is the beautiful VC66 Salacious Crumb. And this one obviously is getting re-released to a certain extent, but this was a very clean example of the VC66, another kind of mini grail for TVC 1.0 collectors. It was listed for $950, but the best offer that was accepted on that was $600. So the seller came off quite a bit on that, but I would say that $600 is probably about right for this one. But that was an interesting sales price as well. Panda Boba, this one was the European market release with that big warning sticker on the back, VC20, and it was a punched example. This one sold for 100 pounds, which is $122 and change plus shipping on that. But this one did not have an offer sticker on the front, which makes this one more appealing. Most of these I've seen have a big sticker right on the front that goes over his face, but it looks really great without that sticker on there. And so someone was maybe willing to pay up a little bit more for that, even though it was a punched example. I got a few vehicles that sold mint and sealed box. Toys R Us exclusive Return of the Jedi packaging for the AT-AT Walker. And this one sold for $700 in a buy it now situation, free shipping. And given that it was free shipping, I thought that price was particularly good. It wasn't perfect. You can see some very light edge wear in the corners there, but most of them are like that. But it was mint and sealed box, and overall pretty decent shape. It had some scuffing on the bottom of the box or the back of the box there, as you can see. But pretty interesting sales price nonetheless. And it sold for $700. I've seen them as high as $850, as low as $625 plus shipping. So this one was $700 free shipping. Kind of right in line, I would say. Another one that's tough to find is the Republic Gunship, another Toys R Us exclusive in the TVC packaging. It had some kind of weird indentations in the upper right-hand corner by the warning label, but again, it was a mint and sealed box example. I would call this kind of 80 plus, maybe even 85 condition. Probably one of the cleaner ones I've seen for sale recently. It was listed for $688 US plus $25 shipping, and it sold for $620. $620 was the best offer accepted. So about $650 all in plus eBay sales taxes for that one. But that's the cleanest one, again, I've seen in a while. Usually there's some very heavy dings or scratches on the box for this one. Just not many of these out there, and a lot of collectors covet this one, and it's a very, very cool item with that box art. Next up, let's dig into some graded TVC. This one is that uncirculated 9.5 VC23 Luke indoor capture. I had this in my what to buy video last week, and I was kind of curious to see what this one would sell for. I was expecting, quite honestly, about $250 for this one, because it was an uncirculated gold level 9.5. That's about as high as you'll ever get with vintage collection sent to AFA, but it sold for $181. I thought that was a really good deal, plus $20 or $19 shipping. So let's call that all in about $200. So that came in a little bit lower than I expected. Next up, this was an interesting one. This was a CAS graded custom with the mail-away Boba Fett, the VCPO3 rocket-firing mail-away Boba Fett, encased with the mailer box, and it was an uncirculated 95. That is a very, very desirable item, and the price didn't disappoint. $345 on that actually is a little bit lower than I expected, given the high grade. 95, 90, 95 were the sub-scores. Mail order exclusive with the box, uncirculated 95 with CAS. And it costs about $150 or $180 just to get it graded, plus shipping to and from CAS. So I think someone got a really good deal on this one. $345 on 34 bits plus $22.85 shipping, so let's call that about $370 all in for an uncirculated 95 grade. That's a beautiful item. Next up was an uncirculated 9.0 Oddball, and this is one we seem to cover fairly regularly on the channel, ungraded, and we talked about how that got up to about $175, and then it's dropped down to between $100 and $125. Well, this uncirculated 9.0 with the Darth Maul offer sticker unpunched sold for $250 plus $19 shipping. So it's just further proof that there are discerning collectors out there with the chef's kiss. They want to have those uncirculated graded TVC 1.0, and they're willing to pay big money for it. So $250 plus $19 shipping on that one. Same seller had the uncirculated 9.25 Ray in the Jakku card back there, so that was a pretty one. That one only sold for $62. I mean, that's grading cost, really. I mean, that's a really good deal there for Ray Jakku. Next up was the uncirculated 9.25 Elite Praetorian Guard, and this one came out of the gate really expensive in the auction. It got up to like $65, but then it closed at $70. So further proof that the sequel trilogy figures, even in high grade, do not command much money right now. It just seems like the sequel trilogy is down and out, and it'll be interesting to see whether the Ahsoka series sets up like an Heir to the Empire type of storyline for a lot of the Mandalorian characters and the Ahsoka and Boba Fett, and whether they kind of wrap it all together in like a movie concept, which is kind of the rumors right now, with Grand Admiral Thrawn as the main villain for some movie as yet unannounced, like formally announced. But how that fits in when the timeline as it relates to the sequel trilogy, who knows? Maybe they write off the sequel trilogy and just kind of like ignore it. But anyway, this Praetorian Guard only did sell for $70 plus $19 shipping. Clone Commander Rex in an uncirculated 9.0. This is one on the opposite end of the scale, where this came in higher than I expected. This one sold for $170 plus $15 shipping. So I was kind of surprised by that. Just, it seems like most people don't particularly like this one. I do. I think it's a really great looking card image there, but most people don't seem to like that sculpt or that particular figure. I mean, I think I sold my CAS 95 for about $120, something like that. But that one did sell for $170 plus $15 shipping. Next up, Art Trooper Echo. This one was an uncirculated 9.25. This one sold for $77. Again, not much more than really the AFA grading cost plus shipping plus the actual cost of the Art Trooper Echo. I thought that was a particularly good deal as well. Next up, let's get into some of the more recent releases. Here's that Boba Fett throne room, and there's been obviously quite a number of sales here recently, not only in the UK, but over in the US. This one was in hand and still in the shipper box and sold for 250 pounds, which is $306 US. In the US, I've seen as low as about 250 plus shipping to as high as 325 plus shipping. So it seems to be kind of hovering and settled in that price range of 250 to 350. This one was right in the middle there. But if you bought this from the UK and had it shipped to the US, you would have had to pay another $55 in terms of shipping. But that one did sell in the UK for $306. Just for the Fat Bib Fortuna from that throne room, there were a number of data points here in the US for that one. This one sold for $75 plus $8 shipping, although it did have some light scuffs to the card back, nothing major. Here was a cleaner version. That one, well, I take that back. That one had a scuff as well in the upper left-hand corner. But still, that's a great-looking card image, and I love that figure. I don't know why. It just looks awesome. $107 on that one, free shipping. And then here was another one. That one sold for $105, free shipping. So if you're looking just for the Fat Bib Fortuna Tatooine and you don't want to pay for the entire throne room, that gives you some data points there, 75 to about 120 bucks for the Bib Fortuna. And then finally here, as I talked about at the beginning of the video, here was another pre-order for the Haslab Ghost. It included all figures from the pre-order, no reserve auction. Now, we documented a buy it now that sold for, like, I think $10.50 plus shipping plus eBay sales taxes. So probably more realistically, it was about $1,200. Whereas this one sold in an auction, and again, it's a pre-order where you have no buyer protection, because by the time this comes out, your PayPal buyer protection has long since expired. So I don't recommend doing this, but someone did bid on it. A lot of people bid on it. 31 bids, and it closed at $650 plus another $150 shipping. So that's $800. Yeah, $800 plus eBay sales taxes. And again, I would just caution you to do this. I wouldn't do this personally. Just wait for them to be in hand in late 2024. There's going to be plenty of them on eBay in auctions or in buy it now situations for probably this price or less. So I personally would not be paying anywhere close to this, because number one, it's probably going to be less in late 2024 when these get into collectors' hands that are going to resell it. But number two, if you do these pre-orders, you got no buyer protection, and you have no protection that the seller's actually going to ship them. So anyway, thanks so much for watching this vintage collection market update. Have a great day, and I'll be back soon.